Hi, dear viewers and listeners. I hope life is good for you. After returning from England and South Africa, my journey has now taken me to the mist-covered lands of Germany, a place where ancient stories still whisper through the trees and legends are carried on the wind. Tonight, I share a tale from these lands, one filled with magic, fear, and a twist that will leave you questioning the nature of reality. This is the story of the Shadow of the Brothers Grimm. Before starting this strange story, please subscribe to my channel and activate the bell button so that you will know about the stories before others. Let's start the story. The Shadow of the Brothers Grimm. Once upon a time, deep in the heart of Germany, there was a village known as Grimmenstadt, where the shadows of the Brothers Grimm loomed large. This was a place where fairy tales were not just stories, but warnings, a land where magic still lingered, and dark things were never far from the surface. The villagers spoke little of the strange happenings in the forest that bordered the town. They feared the woods, and rightly so. For it was in those trees that the Brothers Grimm had once recorded tales of creatures that were better left undisturbed, wolves that walked like men, witches that could steal your heart, and spirits that trapped the souls of the unwary. The very air seemed to hum with an ancient magic, as if the stories themselves had not only been told but had taken root in the earth. Among the villagers was a young woman named Clara, a scholar who had come to Grimmenstadt in search of knowledge. She had read all the famous fairy tales, those collected by the Brothers Grimm themselves, but she sought something more. Clara wanted to understand the magic behind these tales, to uncover their true meaning. Her curiosity was as sharp as a knife, and it drove her deep into the heart of the forest, where the shadows of myth seemed to grow thicker with each step. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees and the forest was cloaked in a strange, otherworldly twilight, Clara came across a clearing she had never seen before. In the center of the clearing stood an ancient stone well, covered in moss and vines. The air was still, and the only sound was the soft rustling of leaves. Clara felt an overwhelming pull toward the well, as if someone, was calling her. She approached the well, her heart pounding in her chest. As she peered over the edge, a voice echoed from within. "Clara," it whispered, soft as a breeze. "You seek the truth, do you not?" Startled, Clara took a step back, but the voice continued, now growing clearer. "You seek to uncover the power behind the tales, to see the magic that binds them. But be warned, child. The truth you seek is more than you can bear." Clara, filled with a mix of fear and excitement, leaned closer to the well. "Who are you?" she called into the darkness. There was no immediate response, but then, from the depths of the well, a figure slowly emerged. At first, Clara thought it was just a trick of the light, but as the figure rose higher, she realized it was no mere shadow. It was a man, tall, with pale skin and dark, penetrating eyes. His presence was both ancient and terrifying, and Clara instinctively took a step back. "You are the one who wrote the stories," Clara said, her voice trembling. "The Brothers Grimm?" The figure smiled, a cold, hollow smile that seemed to stretch impossibly wide. "We," he said softly, "are but the keepers of the stories. The ones who collect them. But the truth behind them is not something we can ever truly understand. It is not a gift, Clara. It is a curse. The air grew heavier, and Clara felt an overwhelming sense of dread creep into her heart. "What do you mean?" she asked. "The magic of these stories," the figure explained, "was never meant to be uncovered. Every tale, every myth, contains a piece of something far darker than you can imagine. It is not magic that binds these stories together, but fear. Fear that shapes the world. Fear that gives these stories power. And now, Clara, your search for truth has awoken something that should have remained asleep." Before Clara could react, the ground beneath her feet trembled, and a gust of wind howled through the clearing. The figure reached out toward her, his long fingers extending like claws. "You see," the figure whispered, "the stories live. And they hunger." Suddenly, Clara's world spun. The clearing around her dissolved into shadows, and she was no longer standing in the forest, but in the very heart of a dark, twisted version of Grimmenstadt. The houses were decayed, the streets deserted, and the air was thick with a palpable sense of fear. The stories she had read as a child were no longer fairy tales, they were warnings. And the figures from those stories now walked the streets. The wolf was there, its eyes glowing with a cruel intelligence. The witch hovered in the corner, her twisted smile stretching far too wide. And in the distance, she could hear the haunting call of the raven. Clara tried to run, but her legs felt like lead. She was trapped, lost within a nightmare she could not escape. The truth, the knowledge she had sought, had come at a price, one she was now paying. And as the stories closed in around her, she understood. The Brothers Grimm had not only collected stories, they had unleashed them, binding themselves and everyone who read their tales to the fear they contained. Some truths are too powerful to be uncovered. When we seek knowledge without understanding the consequences, we may awaken forces that cannot be undone. Make me happy with your likes and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Be in the shelter of wisdom.